Oh, you're finally awake. Stay tuned for the rest of the video and I will show you how I made a replica Lexicon from the game Skyrim out of a solid chunk of brass. So, a little refresher, in the game Skyrim, the Lexicon is a device not unlike a hard drive. It can store ancient knowledge that you use on quests in the game. You plunk it on these pedestals called receptacles, and it's a pretty cool visual. It'll expand and spin and light up, kind of like those cool Battle Brawlers toys from when we were kids. I guess technically it contains memories inside of it. What does this add?
To farm, fish, and get your Game Freak on with 3D rendered hotties.
What the fuck? Now, I was on a bit of a time crunch with this project because I was making it as a wedding gift for a friend of mine and I only had a few weeks to finish it. And as much as I wanted to make like an actual real mechanism that opened up, expanded, and spun like the real thing, I realized very quickly I do not have time for that. So I decided to just make him a glorified paperweight. Because, you know, it'd look cool. So I started by going over to Thingiverse and I searched up Lexicon. I was able to find a model. Oh my gosh, what are these? Shout out to Strobe77. This is an excellent model. All I had to do was scale it to the size that I needed. I kind of converted it into a different type of STL, although I'm not going to go into that because it was kind of confusing. I might explain it in a later video. But I brought it into Fusion 360, which is the CAM software I use, and I created all the setups. I generated all the toolpaths that I would need to machine every feature in it. And this is where I begin to square the block up by facing each side in a specific order. So I didn't bother to write programs for the facing ops because I'd rather just hand jog it. It's faster and more hands-on that way. You can kind of get a feel for what you're doing. You can jog across to your part, stop it, pull it out really quick, measure it, see if it's where you want it. If it's not, put it back in. Because your tool is already right there, it's instantaneous, it doesn't take any time. But the whole reason why you want to do these face-offs in a specific order of operations is because if you don't, you will end up with a out of square block, which just kind of creates a nightmare scenario for all your future operations. This is where I begin to mark each side so that I know the orientation that I need to have it in the vise when I go to machine it, so that the patterns best match the actual model. This little guy is called a Renaissance probe. It's got like a ruby tip so it doesn't wear on the actual business end. You can use it to set the origin point for your workpiece. This shot of the first cut is absolutely horrible. But it's okay because the rest of this video is not as bad. The nice thing about making this out of brass is it's a really forgiving material to cut, especially with, you know, complete flood coolant and carbide tools, which all of these tools that I'm using are carbide. Like the one I'm using right now is a 1/4 inch carbide 3-flute end mill. The tool I'm using here is a 1/16 inch carbide end mill. This small end mill is great for getting in and machining the very, very fine details of this part. But there are going to be even smaller features that I'm going to machine with even smaller end mills coming up here shortly. And what you can see right here is just me using that smaller end mill as a finish end mill to do a finish pass. This next end mill is 20 thousandths in diameter. Come on, camera, get in focus. Come on, that's 0.02 inches. For reference, that's about 6 human hairs stacked on top of each other. It's also the average size of a politician's brain. Now, because it's such a small end mill, I'm taking really shallow depths of cut and I'm doing cuts side by side. My max step down is 7 thou and my max step over is 12 thou. Also, something really important that you want to remember to do when you're using a really small end mill like this, you always need to dial indicate the tip of the end mill to make sure that it's not running out of true from the collet inside that tool holder, or else you will immediately immediately break your tool off, and you'll be sitting there wondering, why the heck are my end mills snapping? This next tool is just a deburr. It's got a 45-degree tip. I think it's got like 4 flutes. I'm just using it to knock off all the sharp edges, because when you machine brass, it's really flaky, and even though it doesn't leave really nasty burrs, it still leaves burrs like any metal, so you gotta knock those off to make it nice and smooth and give it a really nice appearance. And don't mind me, I just need to finger these cracks for a little longer, so you know, don't make it weird. You probably already noticed, but in the spirit of Skyrim, I chose to score the video with the appropriate music. Almost all of these shots are manual focus mode on a DSLR. It's a pretty old camera. In the future, I'll be using a GoPro that I have now. That'll be much better at focusing, but some of these shots are not really in that. They're not really in focus. I was worried that this would be kind of silly, but it's actually turning out really cool. I could not be happier. Yes, feast your eyes on my blurry footage. Obviously, I'm not going to bore you with me flipping it over every single time, so I'll just cut to the end. I'll show you the finished product. It turned out really good. I'm pretty happy with it. And it will definitely do its job as a paperweight and kind of a talking piece, kind of a conversation piece a little bit. And when you pick it up, it's got a pretty good weight to it. But yeah, thank you for watching. This is my first video on this channel, and I plan on making many more videos in the future that are way cooler than this video. I almost didn't record this because I didn't know if it would make for a good video, but I did it anyways, and I'm glad I did. It turned out alright. So yeah, if you want to see more videos like this, consider subscribing, and have a great day. Oh, and also like the video if you can. That would be very helpful.